Welcome, dear Sagittarius. Whether you are a long-time traveler on this channel or a curious newcomer who has just stumbled in, I am grateful to have you here at Zodiac Talks Tarot. This space is where astrology meets psychology, where myth brushes against modern life, and where a little Buddhist wisdom often sneaks in to remind us not to take everything so seriously. So let us begin with this September 2025 reading, titled quite dramatically, "This is huge. You need to watch this." And honestly, it is huge not because I say so, but because the rhythm of your life is changing in ways you can feel beneath your skin, even if you can't yet name it. Take a breath, Sagittarius. Yes, you the one already scrolling through emails, texting 3 people, and daydreaming about your next trip abroad while half listening to me. Stop for a moment. Put down the triple-shot coffee that you claim is for productivity but is really just fuel for your restless curiosity. Spirit has been waiting for you, not with your calendar full of goals and your suitcase half-packed, but with your heart wide open. A chapter of your life is closing, and unlike those textbooks you never returned in college, you cannot keep this one checked out forever. This ending, however, is not tragedy. For Sagittarius, endings are simply preludes, the closing credits that roll just before the lights come up and you realize the next show is about to begin. The universe is not taking something away so much as it is handing you a compass and whispering, "New trail ahead." And as every archer knows, the end of one shot is simply the preparation for the next arrow. You are stepping into a chapter where the arrow you have carried for so long finally flies true. But first, we must examine what is leaving. For months, perhaps even years, you have been carrying too much. Responsibilities, expectations, unresolved emotional baggage that may not even belong to you. Think of the 10 of Wands, a figure so bent under a load of sticks that he cannot even see the village just ahead. That has been you, noble Sag, marching on with a grin, insisting you can handle it, because optimism is your brand and independence is your creed. Yet even the strongest horse grows weary when burdened like a pack mule, and let us be honest, you were never meant to be a mule. You were born the centaur, half wild and half wise, built not for hauling the weight of everyone's anxieties but for roaming horizons and asking big questions. Here is where the psychological truth kicks in. Many Sagittarians are guilty of overextending out of loyalty. You want to help, you want to inspire, and you genuinely believe you can juggle it all. "Sure, I can do that too," you say, already knowing your schedule is bursting. It is charming, in a tragicomic way, like watching someone juggle flaming swords while balancing on a unicycle. Entertaining, yes. Sustainable? Not so much. Eventually, even your legendary optimism strains under the heaviness. The body complains, the spirit sighs, and the laughter starts to sound hollow. So what is ending now is not merely a situation but an identity you have outgrown. The version of you who thought that strength meant shouldering everything alone. The universe, in its sly wisdom, is asking, whose weight have you been carrying? Was it truly yours, or have you been lugging around the disappointments of others, the unfinished tasks of colleagues, the unsaid words of family, the invisible obligations society hands out like unwanted party favors? Spirit wants you to pause and sort through the load. Which logs belong in your bundle, and which are simply debris you picked up out of habit or misplaced guilt? This chapter is closing because the universe knows something you sometimes forget. You cannot climb the next mountain while still dragging the rubble of the last. The journey ahead demands a lighter step, a clearer vision, and a body that moves not under compulsion but with joy. In Buddhist terms, clinging creates suffering. And you, Sagittarius, have been clinging not because you love the burden but because you forgot you could set it down. Liberation begins with that simple act, placing the weight on the ground and realizing you are free to walk without it. So as you stand at this threshold of endings and beginnings, recognize this moment not as loss but as preparation. What falls away now is not punishment but pruning. It is the necessary clearing so that new growth can burst forth. Imagine yourself setting down that overloaded bundle, stretching your back, and finally seeing the village ahead. Imagine walking into it with hands free, ready to embrace whatever awaits. That is where we begin this new chapter, and that is why this moment matters. For Sagittarius, September 2025 is not just another month, it is the exhale before the next great inhale, the pause before the arrow sings through the air, the clearing before the true adventure begins. The Chariot arrives not like a limo with tinted windows and a driver named Destiny, but like a sleek, bridle-less force that moves because you move, willpower on wheels, purpose with momentum, faith strapped to a V8 engine. That's you, Sagittarius, and the joke is that you've been waiting for a green light when, spiritually speaking, you are the traffic signal. Victory here isn't about grinding rivals into cosmic dust, it's the quieter revelation that once you're aligned, there is no race, just direction. Psychology agrees with astrology on this point. When you embody your future self, when you rehearse not merely the outcome but the feeling of having arrived, the brain begins rewiring toward that reality, and the world starts cooperating like a well-trained stage crew. So the Chariot doesn't shout, it leans in and says, "Stop auditioning for the role you already have, walk on set and deliver the line." Of course, the Chariot's confidence pairs with a companion card many people side-eye, the 8 of Cups, a dignified exit in a glittering world that no longer feeds you. Sagittarians admire this more than they admit. It's the midnight moment when you sense the DJ is spinning nostalgia instead of truth, and you choose the starlit sidewalk over one more chorus of a song you've outgrown. Leaving what was once meaningful is not cynicism, it's culinary wisdom. When the feast is over, lingering at the table doesn't create dessert. In psychological terms, the sunk cost fallacy keeps us planting flags in yesterday's territory. The 8 of Cups replies, "Fold the map, the frontier moved." Buddhism would call it non-attachment, release without resentment, gratitude without grasping, because clinging is how we turn chapters into cages. Courage, then, is not chest-thumping bravado, it's the calm hand on the doorknob, the willingness to trust that the hallway is lit even if you can't see the next room. And before you catapult yourself into the next quest, because you will, you enthusiastic comet, we must talk about an unfashionable word in hero stories, nourishment. Your nervous system is not a bottomless credit card, it collects interest. Imagine, as plainly as you can, a warm golden current entering at the crown and moving through the body. No incense required, no pilgrimage necessary, just 5 minutes of attention like sunlight poured into a winter room. Neuroscience calls it visualization, contemplative practice calls it returning the mind to the home address of breath. I call it plugging your soul into a charger before your day goes from tidy to operatic. Humor me, if you wouldn't run a road trip on a gas tank flashing empty, why would you try to steer a life on fumes? Sagittarius is a fire sign, yes, but even a campfire needs tending, oxygen, kindling, the patience to let the flame catch instead of flinging a whole tree on it and calling that strategy. Self-care isn't a spa day pasted over burnout, it's the pre-game, hydration, boundaries, sleep like you mean it, movement that reminds your body it's a companion, not a pack mule. Do these small things and the Chariot stops feeling theoretical, your focus sharpens, your intuition gets louder than your anxiety, and you can finally hear the internal navigation system saying, "Turn here." Meanwhile, the 8 of Cups keeps its gentle watch. When your energy returns, you will notice what truly fits and what merely flatters. You'll notice which conversations end with a fuller heart and which leave you bargaining with your own values. You'll notice how often guilt masquerades as loyalty. Walk away kindly. Leave a thank you on the table. But leave. Because the universe hates wasted seats, it wants you in the section where your name is on the ticket. And should doubt try its old monologue, who am I to do this? Remember the simplest spiritual arithmetic, if the path opens as you step, that is the permission slip. The Chariot is your movement, the Eight of Cups is your edit, the Golden Light is your maintenance plan. Put together, they form a grown-up kind of victory, not spectacle, but steadiness, not. Of course, the road to triumph doesn't arrive neatly gift-wrapped. September's lunar eclipse was less of a gentle breeze and more of an emotional tsunami. Let's not sugarcoat it, you probably felt it in your chest, in your tear ducts, maybe even in that restless urge to clean the kitchen at 3 in the morning. Yes, even the famous happy-go-lucky Sagittarius has moments where the universe hits play on the sad playlist uninvited. But this isn't weakness, it's a purge. Think of a beach after a massive wave, messy at first, maybe even frightening, but once the tide recedes, the sand is cleared of debris. You, dear Sagittarius, are that shoreline raw, exposed, but freshly prepared for whatever castle you choose to build next. The eclipse didn't break you, it stripped you down to the essentials so that nothing false can weigh you down going forward. And just when you're expecting the universe to crown you with an eagle or roar you forward with a lion, Spirit sends a squirrel. Yes, a squirrel. Not exactly the animal you tattoo on your bicep to symbolize dominance. But don't laugh too quickly, there's deep wisdom here. Squirrels are fast, resourceful, relentless in their gathering. They stash acorns all year long, not because they doubt their survival, but because they trust their preparation. In the same way, all the skills, lessons, and battle scars you've been quietly collecting, those sleepless nights, those conversations that rewired your perspective, those failures that actually sharpened your instincts, they are the acorns. You've been squirreling them away without realizing it. And now? The harvest is here. Those stored treasures are ready to sprout into something larger than you imagined. So yes, you may have hoped for a spirit animal with wingspan or fangs, but the squirrel has its own humor. Sometimes victory is not about roaring, it's about being quietly prepared when the season shifts. The message could not be clearer. Believe in yourself, Sagittarius. Spirit already does. And in the year of triumph 2025, the chosen ones, ordinary people who kept walking their strange, stubborn path, are finally revealed for what they always were, extraordinary. Sagittarius, let's pull the lens in closer and talk psychology, because while you may love the big adventures and the sweeping philosophies, the truth is often found in the small habits. One of the classic Sagittarian blind spots is the tendency to carry other people's logs. With your generous heart and incurable optimism, you often believe you can lighten the load of everyone around you. Maybe you're the therapist friend, offering midnight pep talks and unpaid counseling sessions that rival a licensed professional. Or maybe at work you're the one quietly doing twice the tasks because no one else seems capable of stepping up, and you hate to see things fall apart. At first, these gestures seem noble, almost heroic, but over time, those little logs pile into a mountain, and you, the free-spirited centaur, suddenly find yourself stumbling like a pack mule. The Ten of Wands serves as a blunt warning: carrying the world's weight doesn't make you a savior, it just makes you exhausted. And when you're exhausted, you can't shoot your arrow straight. In other words, your aim toward freedom, truth, and growth becomes shaky simply because you're running on fumes. The tough but necessary question is this truly your responsibility, or does it belong to someone else? Learning boundaries isn't punishment, it's the next step in your spiritual curriculum. Now let's step into the wisdom of Buddhism, because the cosmos and psychology often agree with the Dharma. What's being asked of you now is balance. The Buddha taught the middle way for a reason: extremes wear us out. You don't need to retreat into a Himalayan cave, abandoning every tie, nor do you need to set the entire world ablaze in one dramatic sweep of effort. Instead, the invitation is to walk steadily, to rest when needed, to act with mindfulness rather than compulsion. Clinging, as the Buddha emphasized, is the root of suffering. And the Eight of Cups mirrors this teaching. It isn't about labeling something as bad or good, it's about recognizing when it no longer belongs to you. If you've been dragging around outdated beauties, toxic expectations, or stale ambitions, the kindest act is not to soldier on, it's to let go. Release isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's acknowledging that some chapters are simply finished, and holding them longer only deepens the ache. And here's the reward that often gets overlooked: once the weight is dropped, space returns. Hidden behind the cards is the Ace of Wands, a burst of creative fire waiting patiently for you to make room. Imagine clearing off a cluttered desk, old papers, broken pens, last year's to-do lists, and suddenly having space for a brand new project. The moment you put the baggage down, inspiration rushes back in like oxygen to a flame. Passion rekindles, ideas spark, and your natural Sagittarian enthusiasm, the kind that can rally a team, start a movement, or write a book in a coffee-fueled weekend, returns with force. This is your rebirth moment, your creative renaissance. You'll feel lighter, sharper, more alive. And when Sagittarius is inspired, the universe had better watch out, because you become unstoppable, an arrow loosed from the bow of spirit itself. Sagittarius, before we close this journey, let me speak plainly. Some of you are running on fumes. You've been sprinting through life as if survival mode were a personality trait, juggling responsibilities like flaming torches and convincing yourself that exhaustion is just another word for ambition. Spirit is asking you no, practically begging you to slow down. Nothing meant for you is going to slip away just because you take a nap, journal a page, or laugh at a ridiculous cat video. Those small pauses you dismiss as trivial are actually sacred fuel. They are the deep breaths before the leap, the stretches before the marathon. Without them, you burn out. With them, you soar. And here's the key: you are not just going to land safely in the next phase of your life, you're going to take flight in a way you've never experienced before. The angel number guiding you now is 444. A code of stability, foundation, and alignment. It's the universe whispering, your hard work is not invisible. Keep building. Keep trusting. If life has felt shaky, this number is your reminder that the ground beneath you is stronger than you think. The truth is, you are not broken. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be, standing on the bridge between endings and beginnings. The old chapter is closing not to punish you but to prepare you, because in the pages ahead, the chosen ones step forward. And yes, Sagittarius, you are one of them. The much discussed Year of Triumph 2025 is not a slogan, it's your personal story unfolding in real time. So what does this mean for you? It means stepping into freedom, renewal, and joy without apology. It means giving yourself permission to rest when you need to move when you feel called, and to trust that your arrow is aimed further and sharper than ever before. Buddhist teaching reminds us that balance is the essence of peace. Psychology reminds us that resilience is born from rest, not just effort. And the novelist in me cannot resist telling you this. The world loves a Sagittarius who knows how to pause, who savors the present as much as the promise of tomorrow. You are not just the wanderer in this tale, you are the author. The pen is in your hand. So here is my final encouragement: live wide, laugh often, and rest deeply. Enjoy the life you're building, because it is uniquely yours, stitched with both triumphs and trials that no one else could carry. If this reading resonated with you, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Tell me what weight you're finally putting down and what path you're ready to step onto. And if you found value here, remember to like this video, share it with fellow truth seekers, and subscribe to my channel Zodiac Talks Tarot. Together, we will keep exploring the mysteries of the stars and the wisdom of the soul. After all, Sagittarius, The horizon is calling and your arrow is about to fly further than you've ever imagined.